So, Lone Rider here in Watchung Reservation, and one of the things I wanted to talk about here was what should be a useful part of the park is essentially just deadwood. All right, you got a lot of fallen trees, rotting stumps. Um, this log here, which doesn't look very good, it's squishy. Ew. Um, and this essentially is what this area of the park consists of. There's a road down there, you can see. And then over there, there's a wide double track trail that's, um, well, it's one of those, primitive type fall line trails. Um, and this area around here, I'm not entirely sure exactly where around here. I think it was in the vicinity of um, this stump and this branch that's over there, this big log. But I think it was in this very vicinity that they were actually talking about. They were talking about making the new mountain bike trails. And the whole thing is they were going to put these trails in a part of the park that other people weren't really using. So this whole area, there's no trails through here. I see a beer bottle over there, so somebody else was here before me. But essentially, this whole area of the park wasn't. There's not other trails going through here. They're not using it for anything else. It's just here, and it's not even being taken care of in terms of keeping it pretty. I mean, you have these huge dead fallen trees just sitting here rotting. You know, not only rotting, but in some cases leaning or putting pressure on other living trees. So, I mean, you know, not a lot of forestry management going on here. That said, you know, the mountain bike opponents were saying, well, it's going to be disruptive. Excuse me. You have share the park with bikers. It's going to cause a ruckus. Um, it's going to interfere with what we're doing, etc. And I just wanted to talk about that because I don't know about you. There's no trails that go through here. There's nothing that would interfere with what anyone else is doing because this area itself isn't used by anyone else. All right. And there were several areas of the park like this, and they were all going to be. Um, the final plan that emerged was that they were going to, clean up some of the trails and then put new trails through here for bikes, so that the hikers and other people who didn't want to share with bikes wouldn't have to share with bikes. They would have a separate set of trails, which would be much smaller than the overall number of trails in the park. Right now, there's about approximately 40 miles of trails in this park. Now, most of them aren't in usable condition, and I'll get to that in a second. I should say tip-top condition. They're usable. There was a period when the no bike signs were down where we biked here for nearly 8 months, and people have obviously been hiking here for years. But the point is that they the trails are dilapidated. There's parts of the park where I've seen, you go back in there, and even though there's a trail, it might look like this. Um, there's a big picnic area up there on Skytop Drive. Within within a sight line of the picnic area is a trailhead, and about 20 feet down that trail, there's a bridge that rotted and fell into a creek bed. There's one single rotted beam left of that bridge. The rest of them all got washed downstream. Now, if you're going to tell me that that's a trail that's in good condition, I'm going to tell you the county's wasting your freaking tax money. Excuse my language, because that's not a good condition for a trail. Now, fortunately, it's a dry creek bed. You can walk down, walk across the creek bed, and walk up. But the point is that if they intended to have a footbridge there, or a bridge of some kind, and there's no bridge, well, why is there no bridge? There's no bridge because it rotted and fell in. So during the period where the signs were down and we were riding here, what I did is I would have to put my bike on my shoulder and tiptoe across the beam or walk down and around. Sometimes I was okay with riding down the creek bed and up the other side, but it was a little difficult. Um, but the point is, they didn't take care of the park very well. Or if you go over by the Nature and Trailside Center, some of those trails are pristine, but the rest of the park, the bulk of the trails, the 40 odd miles of trails in this park, aren't in great shape. Okay, again, a lot of them look like this. You know, down trees and beer bottles. And actually, there's a surprising amount of broken glass on some of the trails. as a cyclist, I always wondered if that was on purpose or if it was just that there's a lot of people that come back in the woods and, have drunken parties. I don't know. Smash their beer bottles because they're plastered. If that's the case, maybe instead of going after cyclists, they should go after the people who smash the beer bottles and are drinking back here. I mean, just a thought. Nobody ever cut themselves and, got infected from a bike tire. And a bike tire never magnified sunlight coming down through the trees and started a forest fire. But broken glass does both of those things. Yeah, so I don't know. They should have better priorities, I guess. But that's kind of the whole point. The ban is stupid. The hysteria complaining about bikes is stupid. And ultimately, objecting to even the idea that bikes are going to be in the park on separate trails is stupid. I mean, look, we were going to be like here. The trail that already exists in this area is way over there. It's like the only way you could object to that, there's not going to be an issue of people safely interacting with you on the trail. There's not going to be an issue of, damage to the trail, etc. They're on another trail. If they're worried about all this stuff, it doesn't matter to them. The only thing I could see where it would be an issue for them is if they thought that during a winter's day, when the trees are bare of their leaves, they might be able to see you on your bike through the trees across half an acre of forest. And, if the logic is going to be you don't want to share a park because you just don't want to have to see that there's somebody else there, then you've got friggin' issues, man. Okay? And you've got friggin' issues. But yeah, this area right here is where they were going to be marking out for some of these new trails. And I remember I walked back here once and I saw the little flags they stuck in the ground, and I thought that was kind of cool. So I figured I'd come back here and see what it's like. And yeah, you can't even tell that they were ever planning to put a trail here because they never did. They never got to. Just like they never got to open the park generally for mountain bike access. It was because of a handful of people with little minds and no understanding of the issue, at least beyond their own bias. One rider out.